here are 17 things we wish we knew before travelling to Malaysian Borneo.
We have just spent a month exploring Malaysian Borneo. From the highs to the lows, we have seen so much wildlife, done some insane experiences, but there's definitely some things that we wish we knew before visiting. So the first one is visa stamps. So if you're from the UK, the US, most of Europe, you can get up to 90 days visa free, but do make sure you check that beforehand. It's the same as Malaysia. It's Malaysia at the end of the day. So if you're going to Peninsular Malaysia and Borneo, it's the same rules for visa. However, Malaysian Borneo is split into two different states. You've got Sabah and Sarawak. Sabah is in the north, Sarawak's in the south. And then obviously you've got Peninsular Malaysia. For each of those different states, you are going to need a different passport stamp. This helps to control immigration and all of that. So make sure that you get physically stamped in and out of each state. Sometimes when you're leaving Malaysia, they might ask you to use the e-gates. Make sure that you don't. You have to get that stamp in your passport, otherwise you may be denied entry. If there's any issues, just go talk to a border official. They will normally be more than happy to help if you explain the situation. They understand.
Yeah. So our next piece of advice is that they use the Malaysian ringgit in Borneo, or the Malaysian part of Borneo, so it's really useful. You don't need to exchange your money. £1 is about 5.7 Malaysian ringgit and $1 is around 4.2. So just know those conversions and then it'll be really easy once you're over there.
It is definitely worth taking note of those conversions, because number 3 is that Malaysian Borneo is much more cash oriented than like Peninsular Malaysia. Most places will accept cash. Only a few places will accept cards, so make sure you are carrying cash with you.
So if you are planning on travelling between places in Malaysian Borneo, be aware that distances are quite large, so do be prepared to spend a few hours travelling. It's not just a short bus or journey between each place.
But number 5, flights are very cheap in Borneo. That is like the best way to get around between cities. If you're going to Brunei, you're gonna fly. You can technically take buses that are buses, but like they're gonna be like 12 or 13 hours, whereas a flight is gonna be an hour. So
it's not worth it.
In fact, I think we had a flight that was like half an hour.
Yeah.
And they literally cost like 30 quid. So book a flight instead.
Yeah. So number 6 is one place you cannot miss if you are planning on visiting Borneo. That is Kuching. This is a place we hadn't really heard much about before visiting. However, we absolutely fell in love with it. It's definitely the best city to visit in Borneo. There's so much to do, so much culture, amazing day trips away from the city as well if you do want to explore, but highly recommend visiting Kuching.
So number 7, if you are visiting Kota Kinabalu, make sure you visit the islands off the city. You can go down to the jetty. We would recommend getting there for when it opens. Book your boat for the day. It will drop you off at one island, then pick you up, take you to another one. You can completely customize it. I think there's 4 different islands you can go to, and it's amazing. The snorkeling is amazing. The beaches are stunning. The water is so clear. We would highly recommend doing that.
However, number 8 is be aware you cannot swim in a lot of other places in Borneo. So if you are planning on visiting like a beach just off the island, or there aren't specific signs saying you can swim, we wouldn't recommend swimming. There are things like crocodiles, box jellyfish, and basically a lot of things in the water that don't want you to be in the water.
Yeah. So number 9 might be a bit of a controversial one. Make sure you check travel advisories. There is parts of Eastern Sabah, particularly where Semporna is and that kind of area, that is advised against travel to by many governments, including the British government and I believe the US government, but just check the advisories. We know a lot of people go there, and we know a lot of people love it there and have the best time and are very, very safe. These safety concerns are because of previous kidnappings in the area. There hasn't been any for many years, and from what we've heard, there's armed guards and there's a lot of security measures to make sure it doesn't happen again. However, those travel advisories are still in place. We're not saying don't go to those areas. It's completely up to you. Just be aware that if you do go, your travel insurance will be void. So number 10, one thing you will notice almost immediately after arriving in Malaysian Borneo is that the locals are so proud of their culture. It's a very different culture to Peninsular Malaysia. It's very tribal and focused on the traditional tribes that were in Malaysian Borneo for thousands of years. And, you know, the signs of the culture everywhere. There's, you know, street lights with their emblems. There's, you know, there'll be people in their traditional dress. There's traditional musical instruments that you'll hear playing, and it's just amazing. If you are in Kuching, there's the Sarawak Cultural Village that you can go see, which is like an open air museum. You can walk around, talk to like actors and people that know a lot more about the culture than we necessarily do. It's definitely worth checking out because like it's just amazing. We loved that they were so proud of their heritage.
So number 11 is probably the main reason people visit Borneo, and that is the wildlife. You'll find animals you will not find anywhere else in the world. It is absolutely incredible. There are the Borneo Big Five, which are the orangutans, the proboscis monkeys, the saltwater crocodiles, the pygmy elephants, and finally the rhinoceros hornbill. And they are all such incredible animals. We were lucky enough to actually see the majority of those.
Well, technically we saw them all.
Technically, we saw like a crocodile like that big. So.
I mean, no, we saw crocodiles elsewhere in Borneo, so it counts. We have seen the Borneo Big Five.
So, yes, if you are planning on visiting for the wildlife, you will not be disappointed at all.
No. For the best wildlife, you are going to want to head to the Kinabatangan River Basin. And this area is just phenomenal. We saw a lot of wildlife before we arrived in Kinabatangan. It was our last stop in Borneo. And we were kind of like, I don't think it can really top anything else that we've seen. We were so wrong. Like, we could not have been more wrong. That's where you see the pygmy elephants. That's the only place really to see the pygmy elephants in Malaysian Borneo. It's also one of the only places you can see the rhinoceros hornbill. You will still see the proboscis monkeys. You can kind of see them across Borneo. Wild orangutans was insane. Yeah. But also, not only the actual Big Five, you can see so much other wildlife. We saw a Borneo firebird. It looked like a chicken, but apparently it's incredibly rare and they never see them, and it was so cool.
It was just a colourful chicken though.
But it was so cool. And like, I love wildlife experiences, and it was amazing. You stay in like a lodge, and then you go out on like several river cruises with a guide, and we stayed with Sukhout Greenview Lodge. We will leave the link below. We booked through Seek Sophie, and honestly we just had the best time. If you want to see wildlife, you have to go to Kinabatangan.
Yep. So number 13 is, if you are planning on doing one of those river cruises or even just any kind of nature experience, make sure you try and squeeze in enough time to do either a night river cruise or a night walk, because you will see so much wildlife that you don't see during the day. So we did 3 different night activities, and we saw so many animals we had no idea existed there during the day. We've seen like Bornean pit vipers, scorpions, you see like loads of insects and stuff. You see animals while they're sleeping as well.
Fireflies.
Yes.
Fireflies are so cool. They are like everywhere in Borneo, but you can only see them at night.
So if you are planning on doing wildlife activities in Borneo, make sure you add a night one to it as well.
You won't regret it. It's slightly creepy at first, but it's not too bad. So number 14, Borneo is full of hiking. If you like hiking, obviously getting out in nature, then you won't be disappointed in Borneo. Obviously you've got Mount Kinabalu, that's the most famous hike. We didn't manage to squeeze that one in this time. It was honestly just a little bit above our budget. It's incredibly expensive to do, but one day we'll be back and doing it. If you want like more of a budget hiking trip, check out Bako National Park. It's filled with nature. It's near Kuching, filled with nature, and there's some incredible hikes to do there. We did 5 of them in the end. 3 of them were quite short, and then one of them took us a few hours to do, and it was just amazing. So highly recommend that one.
So number 15, when you arrive in Borneo, you'll realise the climate is very different from like the mainland Malaysia, because it is a tropical climate, so it will be very humid, quite muggy, and it can rain on and off. Some of the rain's quite light and gentle, however some of it can be absolutely horrific. So
it's really bad.
So if you are planning on visiting, just something to bear in mind. Bring like one of those mini fans and a poncho, just so you're prepared for all eventualities.
Yes, even in the dry season, you're probably going to get some rain. So don't let it put you off, just be prepared. Number 16, the best time to visit Borneo has to be outside of fruiting season. Now, this is when there's plenty of fruit in the wild, so a lot of the wildlife will be deep in the rainforest. If you're visiting places like Samango Orangutan Reserve, the orangutans probably are not going to come out because there's enough food in the wild for them, so they're not going to come to the feeding platforms. And just in general, if you're doing like the river cruise, the wildlife is probably not going to be along the river because they're going to be deep in the rainforest. So it's just something to bear in mind. If you are visiting during fruiting season, you probably will still see some stuff, but you've got a far greater chance of seeing wildlife outside of the fruiting season.
Yeah. So the final point, number 17, is the one that probably surprised us the most. Everyone, when we told them we were coming to Borneo, they were like, no,
you can't afford that.
Yeah. Compared to other countries in Southeast Asia like Thailand, Peninsula Malaysia, Indonesia, Borneo seems to have this reputation of being like an extortionately expensive country. However, it was actually really reasonable.
Yes.
We managed to travel the whole thing sticking to our budget of around £30 a day, and a lot of the days we were massively under budget.
£30 each, £60 total for us both.
Yeah. However, a lot of the most expensive parts of Borneo are doing the wildlife tours. So if you are planning on doing like a multi-day river cruise or going on a private tour, they will cost you slightly more. However, there's plenty of wildlife experiences you can do in Borneo that are very cheap, like Samango Wildlife Reserve and also Bako. They are extremely cheap to do. If you want to do something related to nature but don't want to spend an extortionate price, definitely recommend doing those.
The Kinabatangan tour we did as well was at least half the price of the majority online. So again, if you want to do that, book through our link because it's so much cheaper. It's 100% worth doing. We splashed out a little bit more for that one. It is on the pricier side, above our budget, but it's like half the price of the rest of them. I would also add, if that's okay, that the accommodation in Borneo, the food in Borneo, the transport, they are all incredibly cheap. So if you do like splash out a little bit more for like an activity or something, then it's kind of compensated by the cheaper accommodation and cheaper food. So like overall, it's actually pretty affordable if you do it right.
Yeah.
But that wraps up our 17 things that we wish we knew before visiting Borneo. We hope you liked this video. We hope you found it useful. If you have any extra questions, don't forget to leave them in the comments. I have written up all of these points into like a little like guide thing for you. So if you want that for a little reminder for any of these points, you don't need to write notes. Just click the link below and download that. Because hopefully it will be helpful for you and save you time and stress when planning your trip.
So if any of this has been at all useful to you, make sure you like the video and give us a subscribe, and honestly have the best time in Borneo. It's probably one of our highlights of Southeast Asia so far, so make sure you do visit and use these tips because they will make your time so much easier.